in Vancouver also was a big surprise for me. I never been in Canada. No, in Canada, yes, not in Vancouver. But I was really happy to see. Yesterday was, by the way, a beautiful day to arrive, I have to say. And yes, it was beautiful, sunny, everyone was smiling. I understood why. Yeah, because today is what is normally here, I suppose. And but it's really, coming from United States, from three big cities that, okay, I know United States and the atmosphere there. And you arrive here, you say, oh, I was feeling like in Europe, London, Paris, that kind of cities, also Italy a little bit. But it's has a sort of beauty inside that is a little bit different and from the rest that I've seen in my trip this time. Anyway, so I don't want to stress you for a long time. So I think that not all of you knows who Moroso is, who I am. So I try to just to make a little story of what is my story, and I hope that you will like. So that is what I think, and you probably already you read. So I go on. I try to explain how I started, because the starting moment, the starting point, is always so important. It's like when you read a book and the first page, the starting is always important, because it's just predicting the story that you will read in a way, and you find some details of what it will be in the future, your story. So the first page is always so important. And my first page arrived mid of 80s. I was in that time, or some years before, I was living in another city. I was not thinking to be involved in the family company. I was crazy for art and all the artists around, and they were part of my life. So art, music, and so on. But one day, I had to come back to my family because there was an important critical moment, and they wanted to know if I was going on, me and my brother, or not with the company. So it was very important, and in that moment I felt the responsibility. There was a big responsibility for me, thinking about my parents and what they did before. So I said yes, and I didn't start the day after, of course, but like 1 year, 2 years after, I was ready enough to start with my idea of what I could do in the company. So first of all, it was clear that I was not the person to make, to work in the offices. I don't know how you say the business anyway, the money and things like that. No, absolutely, I'm not able to do that. But I said I could help in the creative side of the company. I have some ideas, I have some friends. And one of the friends was a very young student. Come on, you're close. Then was a student in architecture at that time, very very young, 22 years old, and he had a dream because he was in that time was designing comics, young person and designing for some crazy fanzine, in the world of the students and so on. And he was designing these stories, also putting furniture in the houses that he was designing. And his dream was to realize something that for the moment was only a design in a comic story. So when we were talking, I I imagined immediately that that thing could be my first experience. Together with this friend, I took him in the company, and he was, you know, it was very different from before. In any case, the company was not an old kind of. The company was, in that time, was making a good kind of furniture designed by good people, not, you know, stylish. So good taste, but nothing in the sense of avant-garde or research or design. You know, I was coming from this art school, so I had some love for, you know, people with a lot of creativity and talent. And this friend, so, was full of that things. And so we start, and we have done, as you can see, some things that were a lot in relation with his way of intending design and intending the world. So it was that thing that is also going on in the years in my kind of work. So I try to give to someone the freedom to design not an object but a world of objects, to trying also to describe his vision in a collection of objects that they can be used or not, but they can be used to make a special place of your house or your office or whatever. It's a tool of change, if you want. And that was the dream, to make something new, totally new that nobody was doing before. And so that first collection, when Massimo, was called Dynamic, because it was his love for futurism, Italian futurism, American streamline was so special, so strong. And he put in the collection his love for art. And that time we had really a lot of fun, and we also did together some disco club, like one I remember was fantastic in New York, was called Bolido. I don't know, but he was living for some years, and in the time of Studio 54, yeah, important period. Just to go on, and because I love this kind of people that was not exactly in the main street of design, but these designers were a little bit, you know, out of the mainstream. And this, for instance, Toshiyuki Kita, was already famous in Italy, but his work was anyway coming from another culture. And Japan, for me, was one of my favorite culture and places in that time, but also because, you know, the kind of memory that a Japanese can have respect a seat or a sofa or a chair is absolutely different from what we have in our memories. And for him, that is a Japanese sitting on the floor, a sofa is not, you know, the memory. And it's perfect to do something new and totally diverse from what it was on the market. And he gave me something very important. That was his thesis when he was degree in design in year 68, so also a nice number, a nice year. And for him was so an important object because it was a sort of archetype for his work when he was thinking about the sitting of the humans. So that is not a sofa, that is something to sit. It's more similar to a beautiful rock that you can have in the garden, you know, and to look at the beauty. But it's also because the name Saruyama means the mountain of monkeys. So the monkeys are sitting on the rocks. And also probably humans in the past were sitting basically on the rocks. And so that for him was a sort of archetype of the human being when they want to sit in a natural way. And the object is, you know, was in that moment very important, because now we are used to organic shape, organic design is everywhere. For 10 years, everyone was talking about the organic design. But in 88 was something absolutely out of any trend. And for me was a beautiful example of working in another level. So trying to realize something that was coming from another culture. And you can see some, this for instance was an art installation in a museum in Paris, because the artist wanted that piece because it was representing, he wanted to represent, yes, a mountain, a rock in the middle of a forest. Okay, and this instead is an image of a normal catalog to show that this, anyway, is easy to use in any house, if you want, in an office, in a great space, to make a landscape. And the landscape is a little bit different from putting some chairs only, but you create the atmosphere. And the third important person that I met was Ron Arad, and also with him, we start from another point of view. Basically, he wanted to realize, a version, a cheaper, more or less, cheaper version of his wonderful metal sculptures that he was doing that time. He was a sculptor. He was selling his things only to museums, collectors for a lot of money. And he said, okay, I would like to make something more normal for my public. That is, my public is young people, they love me, but they can afford a metal chair. And so we met one day and said, I think that I can help you, because he tried a lot by himself, because Ron is one of the English designers that are used to make everything by themselves, because they have not industries in England. So who wanted to make things, they were, in that time, in the 80s, they were doing by themselves, and Ron, one of them. And so he tried to make a sort of leather version, but in the end, the leather version was a leather glued on the metal version. So it was not cheaper, it was more expensive. And so he said, I'm not able to do that. You have to help me. And then so we started with also in this case, our first experience, first collection was ended in 89, and 17 pieces, 17 beautiful, different pieces that they all came from these sort of volumes that he did before in metal. So the first collection was just the translation of one subject, that volume pieces, in another language, from the language of metal to another language. And I choose for that felt, because felt is a wonderful material that has a great consistency and also a strength, and also more than metal, can be soft and colorful. And so we add something, because the volumes are more or less the same, but we add something that is more, how to say, and is far from the idea of an art piece, of course, but is more just an industrial piece where you can sit and you can stay. And so the shapes are the same, but the materials are different. And so it had a sort of new, another life for this collection. And then in the collection, the things that we have done later on, we also were starting from that, not from the pieces in metal, but we started from a project done by Ron for us. Anyway, all the pieces of that collection are almost all are still in production, and they are really beautiful example of his way, and also, how to say, they are, because Ron is not following any trend or any things that can happen in the market, but he's like a sculpture. He's making always his work. So when you realize something with him, is something that is just coming out from his brain, direct. And you do that, and it's forever. You cannot say, well, Picasso is old. Okay, he's old, but it's Picasso. And Ron is not Picasso, but he's going in that direction. And everything he's doing, there's no time for that reason, because it's something that he creates out of any kind of other things. It's really very special and different from others. And these are more things that we have done in the years. This is the story of the donut. I have to tell you because it's funny. And so we were doing with Ron many pieces, but all single pieces, so not sofas, just one chair, an high chair, low chair, a swiveling something, but chairs, armchairs. And one day I said, Ron, maybe we need something that is a sofa to connect also all these single pieces. Can you design a sofa for us? Is that a sofa? No, awful. It's something that I hate. All the sofas that has always the pillows to sit, the pillows for the back, the armrests are very, are all the same thing, and I hate. I am not able to design a sofa, and I'm sorry, nothing. Okay, don't worry. We go on with the other things. Okay, but one day, some months later, he called me, and he was in New York. He said, "Look, I'm in New York. I got the sofa." You have the idea? Yes, I have the idea. You know a donut? No. I didn't know what was a donut. I had never eaten a donut before. I am on the street. On the street that in New York they're selling this funny, sweet, come si chiamano? Dolcetti, ciambella, I don't know in English, but the fried sweet thing with the shape of a hole. Yes, maybe I saw once. Ecco, that is a donut, and I'm eating now. So I squeeze in the middle, I'm eating the donut. And when I squeeze in the middle, I saw the sofa. That's true. And that is the sofa, a donut squeezed in the middle. Okay, and he said, it's super fantastic. We have also the two holes. Okay, send me a picture. And he sent me the picture of the donut. And so I understood better. Okay, and we have done many donuts, the small one, the big one, the middle one, and the chairs, donut chairs, everything. But we call the collection Victoria and Albert because he was going to have his first important exhibition in a museum, and there was the museum, the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. So he said, okay, the name will be Victoria and Albert. And he never was worried about the rights of things like that. I discover now, many, many years after, that if you want to call, because we are working for the Victoria Museum now with the chair of Amanda Levitt, and in the beginning we were thinking, was thinking to call her Victoria and Albert chair. I said, no, impossible, we have a collection. I said, really? No, because if you use the name, you have to pay a lot. Oh my God. I said, okay, I never say that. I will never say that to the museum, but anyway, it's done so many years ago. And okay. So what? Yes, the donut. It was done. Here is Ron, and here is, just to introduce to you, my father with the glasses, like me, and my uncle, that is the magic man that for many, many years, now he's a little bit older, but for 30 years, he did all our prototypes by hand, and Ron is calling him Michelangelo because he's cutting and making, and they are, Ron, of course, is not talking in Italian, and Marino is, of course, not talking in English, but they understand each other perfectly. And they're working together to make things, and they're incredible. So just to show what is the story with Ron, this was a Misfits, and a fantastic collection, Misfits. Because he was, in this case, he was doing another big exhibition. Here we are at MoMA, and the exhibition was called No Discipline, that typical of Ron. So for a no-discipline exhibition, you need a misfit sofa. And the sofa is very, very interesting because it's also, in the plan, looking from top, they are all cubes 90 by 90 by 90 in the beginning. So, and the plan remained 90 by 90, the base. But then they cut and they made the shape in a very different way. But what happens? Happens that in the end, the base is a square, 90 by 90. And so they are all fitting, but misfitting a little bit because the shapes are very different and not done to go together. So that is the idea of Ron, always disturbing a little bit the normality. Okay. And this is also something very clever for me. This is a way to build your landscape. In this case, the name is Dolores, because Ron is able to put names to the objects. That is also a name of a woman, but it's also Dolores. And this is like a pixel sofa. You have many pixels, and you can imagine to build every kind of shape with the pixel, because it's, the way that the old computers were working when you go very, very close to the image. And you have an idea of what you can do, but you can really do every kind of shape. In this case, it's following the boxes all around. But it was done to be in Barbican, in the Museum of London. And the heights of this sort of tiles are many, many, many. Every centimeter you can cut the piece, and you have so you can have a seat, an armrest, a back, and with many different heights you can build your place, your landscape, your place. Could be a bench, could be high, could be low, everything. And that is such a great freedom in a project to do what you want in a way, but in a pixel, with the pixels. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah. This is one of the last things, because, for a designer, I know, because I know them, inspiration can come from everything. For Ron especially, are always coming from strange things, the donut, a mattress abandoned in the street like this. He sent me this image, the picture. I said, I did in Tel Aviv this picture. Is it beautiful? Oh. I want I want to bring the idea of this thing, like, trash, and make it, like giving back the life, and so like putting inside something and is standing again. And he sent me also the little drawings. And so I understood, okay. So, and that has this name, is Patrizia, so a mattress for Patrizia. Great. Okay. Okay, we presented 2 years ago now, is almost finished, but it's absolutely not easy, because the molds to do that, especially the base, the back, is so complex. We have to make a crazy mold, so we are still working, but probably end of the year we'll be ready, finally. And also sometimes, for instance, when we have done that chair, the Ripple chair, and was just a simple plastic chair, so nothing very, special, a plastic chair, but with this kind of ripple, the idea that the chair was a perfect object that came out from the computer, because it's like, when you put a drop on the surface of water or a pebble, and all the ripples are going, yeah? And this is a double ripple. That is, when you do that thing, but 2 times with 2 pebbles, you have a magic moment when the ripples are crossing. And this chair Yep. Let me see, where is just the chair? I don't see anyway. Maybe it's not here, okay? In the back, I have this beautiful thing that could happen only in nature or inside the computer. It's not a manual thing. You cannot do by hand. And so we produced this plastic chair because it was coming from a digital thinking and natural thinking, digital done, perfect done. But in the end was a plastic chair. So he said, we need something. I can say, but Ron, on the plastic chair, you cannot put a pillow. No, I want to have like a cover, like a dress, like a, so, but are you sure? So put a cover on a plastic chair is not so, you cover everything we have done with the ripples. I said, no, but we can make something special. I will ask my friend Miyake to help. I said, okay, Miyake is fantastic. And so we have done. And it was a beautiful experience because Japanese designers are so incredible, great people, and they are studying everything in a very serious way. And so they were studying months and months, and they developed with the brand of Miyake that is APOC, so a piece of cloth that is the most designed, how to say, what is most close to design of the Miyake studio, because everything is a project again, in a machine, in a computer that is controlling a loom, that is a knitting room. So you know that knitting, you can really create everything. Knitting, gloves, everything that was also our grandmothers were doing for us, and everything as a shape that you can do knitting, not with a flat fabric. And so with the knitting, and the project of Miyake, they developed some fantastic dresses. The only thing that they wanted was, okay, we do the project, but we want to make something that then can go on also on people, on girls. And so the collection was really funny because it was a spring or summer and then a fall winter. So many different dresses. And in any case, they were wearing by girls or by chairs. The same. The problem was that the chair was costing something like 120, I don't know, euros, something like that. But the cover was costing 4 times. And so in the market of design was not working. But who cares? It was a fantastic experience. And we have done some beautiful things with Miyake, so a great honor. Ecco the chair, one of the clothes, and that is, this is winter, you see, it's like a duvet, and beautiful duvet, and okay, this is a shop of Miyake in Tokyo. And this is the last thing, Ron and his wife, and they are sitting in Venice, but in Piazzale Roma, that is the only place that you can go with a car, then water. And so he was there, he could not come to visit us for the prototype. And so he said, okay, come to Piazzale Roma with the prototype. Okay, Ron. And so we started, and we put the sofa on the street. And he tried, because usually that is for him, that everything has any way to be comfortable, because the function of a sofa has to be a sofa and to be also comfortable. And the project, this was a very special project that he did for a big, a big place in New Jersey, that is the old factory, not factory, it was offices, right? Yeah, the offices of the Bell Institution, no, Bell Works.
Bell Works, the phone company.
Yeah.
Serinin,
Yeah, but of course it's no more that, and it was empty. A developer bought the beautiful thing that was designed by Sarin, and so it's a beautiful place. Also, it was a working place, and there is a big lobby, and Ron designed this object that has to be, connected also, so could be long, short, and many other things for this lobby. So fantastic. Yep. And this, we will see the project realized in a few months. And that is the last thing with Ron. Many others, but okay. So going back to the past a little bit, this is another person that is coming from out of the, design, just design. He's an illustrator. He's absolutely very, very well known in Europe. He's Spanish. Is Xavier Mariscal, and normally he's designing, on a paper. So it's a 2D design, typical, nothing with the 3D. And they are also very close friends, Ron and Mariscal. So for 1 year, they studied the possibility to do something together, and a sort of body with many different parts. And in the end, that is what remains in the collection, this sofa and an armchair that you see, they are just like coming out from the paper, and they're like no 3D. It's the shadow that shows that it's an object, but could be just a design, a draw with a pencil, black pencil on white paper. And that also is interesting. So to discover if, you can do things with many different people. And that is something that I like since the beginning, to put the diversity of the many people that I know and with I'm working together. And the link is the company. We are like the big vase, for the many different flowers. And that is something that for me is my life, is so important, to have many beautiful things together. And ciao, ciao, that they are. Oh. Also, this nice man was passing by, and Mark Newson, in the year about 93. Then he became too famous, too superstar, and so I never seen after, or just for a cocktail or something like, but now he's working for other things, for big brands of cars, airplanes, or whatever. Watches, sort of, an apple and a watch together. But we have done very funny things in the beginning of his career. And they are some of these, not this chair, but the smaller chair is still in production, the TV chair. And finally, Patrizia arrived one day, and she's a big friend of mine. I was so happy to finally meet a girl when we met in 98, in the winter of 98. And with her, many things changed. First of all, because the relation between us was so easy and so spontaneous. I have to say, we loved the same things. We have done many trips together, looking at objects and things with the same kind of spirit. But when I met her, she was absolutely unknown. Also, if she was working in a big, important studio in Milano for a famous designer. But all her work was coming out with the name, of course, of the designer. And she said, okay, I am in that age that I want to have my studio. And so I was happy to help her to start her profession and to be able, in few months, to establish her own studio. And we have done so many things that it's impossible to put them here all, but basically this was the most important in the beginning, was a chair. And she designed this chair that is fjord, for the cats, like a fjord. She did that after a trip that we have had together in Scandinavia in that year, the first, maybe it was 99 or 2000. And we were traveling together to see all these beautiful places and hotels and so on. And these places everywhere was full of beautiful objects, but all them belonging to the beautiful past, the past of Scandinavia was fantastic in the 50s and 60s. But then something like was frozen. I have to say, everything stopped in that moment, and in that time, said 20 years ago, more or less, was nothing new happening in Scandinavia. It was, how is possible in this fantastic country with all that heritage that nobody is doing interesting things. There are many young designers here, but nobody was doing really something strong. And so she wanted to, how to say, in a way, she wanted to break in that kind of perfection. There was an old perfection. It was related with years that were fantastic, but past. And, the beauty of the swan, designed by Arne Jacobsen, was a typical example of that kind of beauty. The symmetry, the perfection of the lines, very well done, beautiful forever. But the same thing was everywhere in Copenhagen, for instance, or in other places that we were visiting. And so she said, I will bring that thing and I will break. I said, what? So, and very soon she came and presented this project that was just that, was like to bring a beautiful, perfect object, new, and break it, to show that is, like when you have a perfect shell on the beach, and is usually it's not easy to find it entire and perfect, because when it's on the beach means that the shell was rolling a lot, and in the end what you can bring from the beach is a beautiful piece of a shell, but it's not entire, it's a part. And so she wanted to do that, so to break the perfection, the beauty of the object, and show that there's another beauty inside the object, that is the beauty of incomplete imperfection, that is much more related with our times, that are not perfect at all. And so that meaning behind the project was also the reason, I think, for the long life of this object, that is still in production, is one of our bestsellers, and has that kind of dynamic relation with you that you are looking at, that you see that is something imperfect or unfinished, but that is the beauty for me. Many other things with Patrizia, and this is the same, but we are here in the Biennale in Venice, in an example of an architecture that is also that. It's not a perfect symmetry, it's a total asymmetry. But that kind of concrete building is finished by the nature that is like corrupting the material, and is a layer of nature on the concrete, and that is Scarpa, that is have been one of our big masters in architecture and design. And then with Patrizia, we have had many different experiences, like going museums, we are many exhibitions, and always we were trying to make something unexpected. Then this kind of experience became also a project then. But in the beginning, we had a lot of freedom to make a special research. This is also something done with the geometry, but by the way, the geometry became a flower, but it's not done to be a flower. It's because the geometry of a triangle and a circle is creating some, come si dice, leftover that are like half a petal. And so when you put them together, you have an idea of a flower. Or we have also had a lot of fun making things like that. This is a flying machine, of course, as you can see. And because it's flying, is a fly, is an insect, a white fly, a little big, so you can enter in, you can put open the engine, and you can go in the past or in the future. But this was, a part of an exhibition about time. And all the pieces of the sculpture are pieces that we bring from the warehouse where we have all the components of the pieces designed by her. And yeah, also making something like a baby dress with a smoke dot, that is the chair. Going on. Or with her, we have had many, how to say, we were working on many different levels. In this case, for instance, is a little part of how years ago we had to try to make a pink different from before. So, world was full of pink, but not that pink that we have in our mind. And we wanted to use pink, but pink was a sort of taboo color. Nobody was using pink, my God. And but she wanted, and we have done a new pink. That was used also for a sort of concept project for BMW for inside a car, a new car that they were launching that year, some years ago. But with that experience, that of course was just a concept, so BMW never did the car after, not that interior, I mean, but was interesting for the exhibition. But to use the experience, we have done Redondo, that is a sofa and armchairs that are also here. Because in that time, exactly with that project, we start thinking about the skin of the object. The skin is very important. It's important like the volume, because it's the surface. And when you look at the surface, you look at the object, you look at the surface in reality. The volume inside is important, but it's so important also the surface. And we started in this case, and then we went on to study a 3D surface. And so we use a fabric and embroidery with a duvet inside to have the effect of a 3D fabric that were not existing yet. But then with Patrizia, and with the company that is making very special fabrics, we invented, in a way, an old collection of 3D fabrics that now we are using every day and are our mainly the basic fabrics for the sofas. So instead of just a skinny fabric, something that gives you the perception of a generous, to say, and soft touch. Or, many other things with Patrizia, like this dress with the big lines, like in haute couture of Capucci, for instance, or after a catwalk of Comme des Garçons, she decided to make the chair in two bright colors and to have this sort of perception, to have two dresses instead of one. But it's all, all the things that inspire design are coming from somewhere. Okay, then with Patrizia, we have done many spaces. This is our space in New York, that in the beginning, you remember, Keith, was black, all black. So you didn't see anything, because we are in a street that is not so large, and so the reflection on the windows from outside is like a mirror. If inside is black, you don't see anything inside. So now it's totally white. Okay, but was very nice in the beginning to have black for a while. And she used white in London instead, and here is. I don't know, what time is it? What time? Huh?
6:52.
Ah, 6? 6? One, half an hour? Okay, so we are running now, and I don't know till when, but with many others, are not all, but are examples of the most important designers. This is Torbontia that I love, and is a poet, and is also him was absolutely unknown when I reached him in his studio. And the only thing that he did in that time was a beautiful lamp in paper for, in Europe was Habitat, but here is in San Francisco, the company, no? Although LA, it's in LA, and it's a nice company making complements objects. I don't remember the name, but okay. And he did that. There was a big success all over the world, but was the only thing that he had done till that moment. But I was very interested in how a young man could have a different sensibility, very special. And he's not gay, by the way, that I love them, but he is, he's making flowers, and he has a grace and a sensibility that is very, very special, and was using flowers in ears that, if you do a flower, it's like, yeah, the devil. But he was using not one flower, too many, and like, like a Gothic architect or a Gothic designer, a lot. And with flowers also something like, because flower is live, and so you have to show us the contrary. So some scalps, some dead birds, poor birds, things like that. So a lot of, how to say, pattern and a lot of richness in the details, but with a very special taste that was a little, not a little, a lot of too much that I love totally. And yes, it's very Gothic, but it's also related with the beginning of design, the years of the end of the 19th century, when flowers and decoration was everywhere, because the beginning of design for me was that, not the 50s, was the end of the, when the industry started, and the industry started to exist in England, especially in London, in the textile companies, with the textile companies that finally were doing, fabrics for everyone, and the idea was the beauty for everyone. So Liberties, for instance, that with Morris, William Morris, the designer, and Liberty, the company, they did an incredible change in the world of textile. So, and for me, Tord is in that tradition, is really doing that. And he has also a big friend that is Alexander McQueen. And we have done also with Tord and Alexander some things in that years. We exhibit in many places. It was another fantastic adventure. And Tord was living for a while in a forest in France. So the pictures of the things that we have done in that years were in the forest in France, as you can see. And, yep. Finito. Tord instead. Sorry. Oh, I'm tired. Ross Lovgo is another fantastic designer. Is thinking in another way. Is fascinated about perfection of nature and how the algorithms that are, how to say, that are under the develop of a natural piece of, I don't know, a tree, a leaf, or whatever. So everything in nature is as a, I could say, a regola, a rule. No, regola. No, okay. And this is thinking that the minimalism is not the correct kind of thinking, because minimal in nature is never straight. The minimal or the essential in nature is to do what is best for create a good shape and strong shape, but never is straight. So his design is always, following this kind of idea. And we have done with him one of our most beautiful chairs, that is a supernatural, that is done, anyway, it's a plastic chair, yeah. And the plastic chair is done, for him like a sort of leaf, so it has to be very light, so the holes are to have a lighter weight and also a flexible and strong and flexible part. And inside the legs, there is a gas injection, so that in that years was the most, how to say, the newest way to make an object in plastic. So you inject plastic and then the air with the compression, with a big force, to make that the material goes to the, how to say, huh? See the pareti, see, out goes, is very much stronger. And so also a thin chair like this is very strong, and because inside the legs are air, and so like bones, like pipes are stronger than if the material is full. Air inside makes the object lighter and more strong. Sorry, I don't explain maybe very well, but I'm losing the words now. Or this also diatom is a beautiful object that also comes from nature, from the shape of that you can see only with a microscope. That is a little animal, invisible, so small and so complex, that is diatomea, and is very complex. And it just copy the, how to say, that kind of skeleton of the animal that is beautiful. And we try to show the beauty in the chair, that is a beauty of nature. For instance, if someone is going to Paris this summer, no, maybe it's closing before. But anyway, there is a beautiful exhibition at the Centre Pompidou of Ross, and these are pictures from the exhibition. Yep. And you see the diatom and the diatomea behind, that is that fantastic bone of the micro animal. Tokujin is Japanese and is going, in the direction of my love for Japan. We have worked with many Japanese designers, and he is one of them. And this is a Pana chair. And this is another fantastic idea. So to cover a chair with an aluminum fabric, so you can treat it and you can move it as you like. And in the end, you are doing the shape of your chair by yourself, and it's like a throne, and you can have a lot of fun in making, like that. Anyway, behind Soto is a chair that is this, and is anyway a beautiful plastic chair, very comfortable, like a lounge chair, and so on. But the story behind that thing is fantastic. Another object for Miyake. We love Miyake, we see, and done by Tokujin. And front they were 4, now then 3, and now 2 girls from Sweden. But anyway, they are very strong, interesting, and they are working on the illusion. And you see, this beautiful project was to give the illusion of something that you don't, that is not there, but you perceive, because it's a picture, a photograph. So they first took the picture to a drape, a silk drape on a sort of sofa, but in a model, in a scale model, very small. So because to give the perception of reality, you have to enlarge. And so your eyes are looking at that thing like real. Instead, it's not. Anyway, it's a long story. Anyway, they took the pictures, so we had the pictures of a drape of silk on a sofa. And what? Or the drape or pillows flying, something like that. You see my uncle with the little model, and Sophia with the fabric. That is only fabric. In that moment was nothing behind. But you already see the armchair, also if it's not there. So that was the trick, a beautiful trick, to create an object that is not existing, but you see, because it's a fantastic real picture of the reality that is only a concept and not true. But that was in the end how the bench is. So it's a simple bench, but the drapery is so rich, and the perception that you have is totally different from a bench. This was inspired always the work of the front, the group, inspired by the taxi wooden beads that you have, you know, a little more complex, of course. And you said, okay, fantastic idea, beautiful project we have done for the fair. But then it took like 10 days for one girl in Italy to do. And we are used to make everything there. So 10 days for a chair is too much. But it's a beautiful thing that we have in our, you know, archive. Or instead, we are producing many other things with them. This is a beautiful little sofa in leather embroidered, and it's beautiful because the pattern is nothing. It's a doodle, and so doodle is the name of the sofa, and our doodles done while they were talking each other. And finally, Nendo is another great designer. Has an incredible talent to make millions and millions of things, and they are all interesting. And really, we have done some of the million things because he's producing with many other companies, but who cares? He's a genius for me, and he's a talented boy. And this weaving, for instance, is a stool, ottoman, that we do by hand in Italy, in our factory. And this, the shape, this is dew. So dew means a drop of water, right? And you know that drops of water in physics have a very specific shape. So depending on the diameter of a water drop, smaller is the diameter, higher is the shape, higher is that object. When you have a bigger diameter, you have a more flat shape. And so we have done two shapes, one more flat, one more high. And the incredible thing is that the stool is done not just putting over something, but in, come si dice? Intrecciare. Weaving stripes of leather, or in two colors or one color, no problem. But and these stripes are all different because in the end they have to make a shape, a very specific, not one of the many shapes possible, not one of, but one, only one of the many. And so they are cut in a way that, as you can see, are all different. And so in the end, I could show you a video of the making another time. Other designers, and we are now ending because it's too late, but the story is going on. Unfortunately, you know, these are related with people that is working a lot for us, but we have also many other experience around. Doshi Levien is a couple. She's Indian, is Scottish, and so represent for me already in their work, what they are doing and what they are, a perfect combination of two cultures, and the result is always intriguing and surprising. Yeah. And we have done many things with them, many beautiful objects like this. The first was a sort of bench. She's Nipa, the beautiful queen. And this is Chandigarh, an object that was done in honor of Le Corbusier and the city that he did in India. And, you know, this is a leather printed with the photograph also in this case the picture, done to an important building of Chandigarh, the most important, that is very is a very special geometry, and we put the picture in a miniature in the leather, and okay, we're using like a little pattern. Collection of Armada chairs and tables that we presented last year. And for instance, this year I gave them another input, a brief, that is, because you are special and you are not usually making the, how to say, the standard classic. Why don't you think about a standard classic sofa, a system of sofas that has to have that kind of perfect function, memory, a little bit related with the all that movement that in the United States is a great movement, like the modernism, that they also liked a lot. And so they were working on this, the sofa, the project is called Modernista, so is declared what is is coming from. And, but because the project was developed by them, the result is not so banal and not so predictable. It's something a little bit different. And for the details of the feet, details of the stitching. And in the end, the object is really has the two qualities. It's a good object for contract, that was the intention, but it's also a very special project done by two designers that are never banal. And this was how they were looking in Milano. Alfredo is another important man, but we are running, and he did for us one chair, only one project. Here is my uncle when we did the prototype. But this armchair is one of our best sellers because it's very comfortable, it's a little funky, it's a little, could be, how to say, very serious, like here. Yes, this is in my house, and very perfect in leather, or could be crazy color and soft, and so as many kind of lives, a little bit like Alfredo, that is an Argentino. Where is the Argentino here? Eccolo, Lucas. And Alfredo is an Argentino and Swiss, you know, a little bit like you, but more extreme. It's like, you know, Argentino is in the night, of course. And Swiss is during the day, working in the studio, perfect. But the night, fantastico. Okay, this is Dutch, another kind of poetry, another kind of sensibility. He's a man that is traveling a lot, always traveling. And in his first project, he put a lot of his experience in traveling. You know, fabrics that were coming from Morocco, and then from Middle East, and then from Japan and India, and so everything together in one single project with a lot of fun, like this. Now, and in the end, he called the project Sushi because there is a sort of wrapping with embroidery, some beautiful carps, really a lot also for him of things, but it's a very funny collection that is also has a lot of years, but is going very well till now. Yeah. This is another new object designed this year, and is another system for contract, but with a special touch. It's not so, it's more feminine, gentle, and in a way related to the French tradition instead of the American. So one was doing American and one was doing French. And this is called Josephine, because Josephine she was American, but she was dancing in Paris, and so it's dedicated to Josephine. Also for the fringes that you can eventually add. But it's sensual and delicate. And this is how it was in Milano this year. And the last, no, this is Amanda Levitt that I was mentioning before, with a chair for a museum. So very, it's an architectural project of a very serious chair, but anyway, it's in aluminum, it's cut with a laser, it's very complex. And here are people working on the prototypes and the first cuts and then printing with the machines, and then that is the result. And these are the chairs inside the museum for the test, the final test. And we will see them since June. We will deliver the chairs to the museum. So I hope for the next years, the new wing of Victorian Albert Museum, designed by Amanda Levitt, will have this kind of chairs in the courtyard, okay, but also inside in the public bar. And this is the last thing that I wanted to show. So that since ever, because the pictures before were showing that we are working with art and artists since 2003, and we have done many beautiful experience with artists that are also part of our beautiful creative world, but they are usually doing things not for function, but for another reason, for themselves, for the surprise, for the beautiful, how to say, kind of thinking that they can have, but nothing that has to become an object, usually. In this case, I was in contact with this man that is one of the most important artists in the world now. Is coming from Denmark, or he was born in Denmark, but the parents were Iceland, from Iceland. And so his blood is Iceland, but his life is in Denmark. And his work is in Berlin, so he's moving in the north of Europe. It is Olafur Eliasson. And he wanted to make a very special installation this year for the Biennale in Venice. And so he needed the stuff of, things, because the installation was a workshop that he wanted to install, a workshop in the Biennale, in one of the biggest rooms of the central pavilion, to make what? To show something that you can work, because you can work together, many people, different people. Especially, he wanted to show that you can have fantastic relation between young people, young Italian people, some people from his studio in Berlin, so they are more, close to art, and some young immigrants, refugees that were living in Venice and close to Venice, but they can do nothing. They are close in the houses, they cannot go out, they cannot have a job, because it's, I don't know why, but it's prohibited. They are refugees, so they cannot have a job. That is crazy. He wanted to do that, to stay together, work together, to know each other. Because everyone here knows, if you are working in a studio, that you really can know your colleague, the person that you are working with, in a fantastic way. If you are really working together, that is a way of having a human relation that is very important for everyone. And so he wanted to make this workshop, to build, to make some art pieces that are part of his work, and also to sell during the Biennale in that place, to sell to the people that is passing by, for a price that is nothing respect what is the price of his work usually in the galleries and around, and with that money to help the institution for refugees in Europe to grow. And that was a beautiful project. It's called Green Light, like the street light. And when it's green, you can pass and you can enter. And it's a way to say to these young people, come, don't be afraid. We are friends. We want to work with you. It's a green light here. And that is fantastic. So he needed things, some chairs, sofas, benches, tables, shelves. So I said, Olafur, choose what you like of my production. It's yours. Choose. But we can we have not everything you need probably. And in fact, we had not shelves and not tables. And said, I want to design a table and a shelf for the installation. So, wow, perfect. And that was, these are the two objects that are really beautiful with a real function. It's not because it's an art piece, is something without a function. It's a perfect function. It's a modular table that you can really use and put together in a different way. This is the table, and the angles are 45, not 190, but 245. And that means that you can connect the tables in many ways. You can have one and then two, and then other two, and then other, and you can make some different ideas for having a space for work that you can create in many different ways. Opa. And this is the shelf that basically is beautiful. This is a beautiful combination. It's working, it's working with basically with a triangle. Also, but he knows how to use a triangle, of course. And with many triangles, you can make everything, because triangle is the shape, also for when you have to represent a volume in the old programs of the computer. No, the triangle was the thing to make the skill, because you can do everything with triangles. And this is more or less what is doing in his artwork. Is doing very complex prismas. Come si dice in inglese prisma? I don't know. Geometric shapes, yeah. But using basically some few geometry, a triangle and a prisma done with 8 faces. But this prisma is inside the cube. So every time, in any case, you have the 6 faces that you can combine with others. And so it's a perfect module to build many, many things. Anyway, this is when we were building the installation, making the space, and these are the tables there, working to make it, and this is the opening. And you can see the tables that are in a round shape, in a half a round, in the wing shape, it's straight. You can really use as you need. If you are 4 people, you can use 1 table. You are 8, 2 tables, or many more, and you can combine the tables really in a very different and special way. The fantastic thing is that when Olafur saw the prototypes, he asked me something that I was very shy to ask him, but of course was something that I was thinking. Why don't we put in production this beautiful table and shelf? And yes, yes, of course. And so now I'm very, very happy because I will have a little collection, because these are the starting point. But he said, we can make it bigger, smaller, lower. I said, yes, yes, everything you want. And so we will have a collection of tables designed by this super great artist, and really makes me proud and very happy. And this is, are the days when the people, you see, they're all working together, having a lot of fun, and also working. Is the man with the glasses and the beer. And he's also sitting and working, with the boy that is coming from Syria on his left, and many others. And so, in the end of the project, that will be a very special experience for these young people, very special. And how to say, maybe this experience, I hope, will change their life. That is the most important thing. And people here talking. The fabrics that we use were partially from Africa and partially from Quadrat, so Denmark and Africa together, just to underline that we have to make things together always, and we have to make some, melting, melting the objects, and the result is always, it will be fantastic. So thank you. I think it's part. So it's just a little part, but it's enough for today. Next.
Thank you.
If you have something to ask me, I'm happy to
Any questions?
answer. No. If you want, we can end with a little video of the company so you can see where I'm coming from, the people working.
Sounds good.
Anyway, it's 2 minutes, nothing. This is Patricia. That's due. That's it.